I would get blamed, of course, for the show being canceled then as well. Just like when Aja left Korea and Juan left Korea. This is my life.
Fair enough. So what happened now, Cobra? Oh, we're live is what happened now.
Oh, we are actually live. People see me fixing the strings. I can't stand it. I looked into my camera and I was like, oh my god, little strings up here. I can't do it.
We're still getting used to it. We're still working things out. Welcome everybody to the Pylon Show. Thank you for joining us. Do appreciate it. This is episode number 2. This time we've got 2 guests for you, so I'm just gonna kick it to them, and then I'll talk about Dan and I first. But first, we got our first guest. It is Ravi Fear Dragon. I don't know your last name. I just realized that 2 seconds into saying that. The hell's your last name?
Parikh, as in parakeet.
Okay.
Parikh as in parakeet.
Well, in
what
in
are you
school,
talking
That's
about?
not even.
As in parakeet.
Have you gone your whole life saying that?
No, well,
Parikh is in parakeet, and then you say it differently.
I used to get made fun of like 3 things for my name when I was in high school. It was Ravi as in ravioli. There was Parikh. They would call me parakeet, and then the last one was my high school gym teacher used to call me Parikh the Freak.
Oh,
so,
wow.
You know, take your pick.
Okay, well,
Wow.
that doesn't sound like that bad of a high school, by the way.
No,
Anyways,
it was pretty good.
Fear Dragon is the master of the North American scene, recently a WCS commentator at the Challenger, puts on the Ladder Heroes, is that what it's called, right?
Yep, Ladder Heroes.
Ladder Heroes. He does a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to be chatting with Ravi. Ravi, how the hell are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming. And then the man that needs no introduction, but decent hosting demands that I do give an introduction. It is the grizzled man beast. That is Tyler Watson Noni. How you doing, buddy? Or Nooney, excuse me. Oh, you are muted. That feels good. Okay, so it's not just us. It's not just us that does shit like that.
Yeah.
Still muted, Tyler.
And he's still talking too. He's just sitting there talking.
You know what though? After the way Dan and I opened the show,
maybe.
It's not bad. Whatever Tyler does is like not as bad as what we did.
It works for him.
Give me a second, Tyler. This is just building suspense as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
This is being a good guest, by the way. He tried to mute himself so he wouldn't interrupt like the opening and stuff. But
well, he saw how we were on the first episode, especially, right? And
yeah,
here we are. We're fixing it up.
Well, while Tyler's figuring out his audio, I will give his introduction. Tyler is the former Team Liquid professional StarCraft 2 Brood War and StarCraft 2 player. Still no Tyler, not yet. He is returning to StarCraft 2. Dan, you can never type during the show, by the way, just so you know. You think you're being sneaky? Yeah, that was you. Yeah, it wasn't even a little bit subtle. Not even a little bit. I would. Oh
my God.
This is not going to be our best opening, guys. But what I like about this is we're going to show this video of this opening on episode 100. We're going to laugh because we're going to be doing it from Dan's moon base, talking about StarCraft 4. Anyways, there you go, Tyler. Tyler's back. Hey, there you go.
All right.
Hey, and later in the show, I'm gonna criticize some production values, and I just sabotaged. I can't explain it. I was talking to them before the show started, and then the show starts. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's technology for you. And I like this too, because if you're going to be criticizing some production things later on, you've set us up to criticize this show as well.
Yeah,
it's perfect. It's a perfect plan.
Some reciprocity, so they can be like, "Who the hell are they? They can't even get the start of a show to go." Anyways. Tyler, thanks for coming on, man. It's gonna be good to have you. And then, as always, your hosts are myself and Artosis. Like Tyler before us, we had a bit of a rocky start, but it's okay. We'll only get better at this, and Dan will learn not to type when we're going, and I'll learn what it looks like when we go live. It was you son of a bitch.
You don't know. You can't see my hands. You can't see their hands.
Your whole body shook. Your whole body shook while you typed. It was like, it's like either you typed or something really bad happened. But Dan's a funny guy. There's a video at the top, or the top of StarCraft 2 Reddit's close to it anyways, of him and Tasteless joking around, and you should check that out if you haven't already. It's a good clip. That's it for introductions. Let's just go ahead and dive into the show. So to give you guys a bit of a roadmap again, and please help me chat, by the way, because I'm a connoisseur of Twitch and I like to go around. I was in Rotterdam's channel earlier, And every time I'm in any channel ever, I get asked, hey, is your show going to be on YouTube? Is your show going to be uploaded to iTunes? When is the Pylon Show? Listen here, you pieces of shit, okay? It's on Artosis TV on YouTube. After the episode, immediately it'll be there. And then it's going to be on iTunes. And people are like, I don't like iTunes. You don't have to fucking listen to it through iTunes. You just download the RSS from there, and you can listen to it on anything. Okay? And then the show will always be on at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday, except for when Artosis inevitably quits the show and we have to cancel. But until then, I'm just kidding.
Hey Jeff, that was a great aside. I do want to ask you if you could bend your head down a little bit more so we can only watch the top of your head.
You're right.
On the webcam, if that's all right, if you could do that for us. I don't want to see your forehead anymore. Is basically what I'm saying.
You know what? If it's got to be said that Jeff's got some ways to go to being a good host too, let it be, let it be known. Anyways, so you can always count on that stuff, guys, until things change. Thank you very much. So first off, we're going to kick off the show with something we would like to start doing every episode. And if any of this, if you're a content creator or a League person, like a Rifkin or somebody out there, and you want us to talk about what you're doing, now's the time to do that. So we had 2 people submit things to us. I think first off, I believe the Dank Shrine is the ones that submitted this, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, Scythe Esports specifically, yes. But they're, Dank Shrine and Scythe, I guess, work together a lot.
It's the same thing, actually.
They are the same thing.
They're trying to do something for SC 20-year anniversary, so you can send them 30-second videos of what SC kind of means to you, and you can check that out. Scythe Esports _ is their Twitter, because I guess Scythe Esports got taken.
Well, that's their Twitter, but send them to dankshrine@gmail. Send them to that.
Okay, send it to that then. And,
I literally have a.
They'll put together a nice little video.
Very cool. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Alexa's yelling at me in the other room. Actually, the future is now. So that's that. The next thing we have, if Cobra pulls this up here, I think, is a little line of text. A cool content creator on Team Liquid named Quix, QIKZ, submitted a little line to me. He emailed, I don't know what it's called. He messaged me on Team Liquid. But he's putting on the Shinhan Tank Pro League, or the STPL. It's a Pro League style team league for the foreign community. I'll read it in a second. Cobra's right now moving it around.
Yeah, I can read it for you. It's,
there you go.
It's on the channel Twitch TV /QIKZSD, because that's very easy to remember and type in. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 21 CEST. And it's 4 rounds, 4 sets of playoffs, and a grand final. Take home the prize money. And that's some StarCraft 1 stuff, so pretty cool. And that's all we have to say as far as the community stuff that's going on. But if you are a regular content producer, please reach out to us. And we will actually be trying to reach out to you as well, just in case any of you don't watch the show. But if you don't, shame on you.
Oh, wow.
And we have like a little private Skype chat where you can just drop what you're doing. Like, for instance, we want to hear from, Base Trade. What are you guys doing? Ravi, what are you doing? And each week we'll talk about whatever the regular content is. If you're not a regular content producer, just drop us a line anyways and let us know if you do have something cool coming up.
The only thing I would correct there is that Artosis is still my grandfather, so we called it Skype, but he meant to call it Discord. But just so you guys know, you can join that Discord, drop your content in there.
Dude, I got a Nintendo Switch and I call it a Game Boy, and my wife is going crazy. I'm like, where's my Game Boy? And she's just like, oh my God.
You're going to be that guy. Anyways.
I am that guy already.
He's already that guy. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. We're going to go through some subjects, or some topics here, rather. And I will give you a forewarning. Tyler has alerted us to the fact that he's got some serious criticism bombs to drop here, which is what I'm pretty excited about.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it, yeah. So first topic, GSL kicks off. So Dan, tell us about it. The GSL has launched into, is this the 2nd season of the year? Or?
Yep, it's the 2nd season of the year, so it's kind of the midpoint. I guess we're not quite to the midpoint yet, right? We already had Season 1. We're going to have 3 seasons total of Code S. We already had Super Tournament 1. We're going to have 2 of those, and of course GSL versus the World later on. But Season 2, I think the most interesting thing for me about Season 2 is the fact that the slogan is the overgrowth, which really confused the hell out of me, because Season 1, it was like GSL Daybreak. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Okay, because it's like the beginning of the year. So it's like the beginning of the day, Daybreak. So I thought, you know, there would be something having to do with the afternoon or lunchtime with season 2. And then it was Overgrowth. And I'm like, are we just naming old maps that we played too much? Like, is it going to be GSL Season 3, Abyssal Reef? It's like, what? But anyways, it started up last night. It'll be every Wednesday and Saturday. And we had a laser playing last night. Unfortunately, barely didn't make it out, but crazy series. Lost 1-2 to Classic and 1-2 to Beyond in like epic games. So definitely go check those out.
Classic, one of the most red hot players, I think, around right now.
Oh, yeah.
Tyler, Ravi, you guys watching GSL? Are you into it? What are your thoughts?
I watched it. I'll just jump out and go into analysis because that's who I am.
Yeah.
I thought a laser came out a little bit nervous, and that first game I felt like he botched a little bit against Classic.
Oh, that's so painful to watch.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I don't want to speculate too much because sometimes, you know, you say, oh, this player was feeling this, or this was their failing on this day, and they listen to it and they're like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. But it seemed like he came out a little bit nervous, and then I just wish, like, I mean, obviously he has like the talent and currently has the skill to compete with these guys, and he just came so close and didn't quite make it.
Yeah, and who was the fourth player? It was Leenock in that group as well.
Leenock,
yeah. Leenock kind of got crushed by everybody. He like lost 0-4, unfortunately, but what are you gonna do?
So analysis-wise, how you're just saying that you think a laser belongs in a group like this with these guys, but maybe with some more experience, you can see him making it out of there or something?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch... I mean, I'm not going to throw my analysis into the TVZ, but I obviously watched the PVZ. And, I mean, Classic is just really, really good right now. And the first game... well, I mean, both of his losses are just... It was a little bit like... I'm pretty sure he plays better than that in practice and puts up a better fight, and maybe he just couldn't quite bring his absolute top A game against a player like Classic once you get on the GSL stage.
Yeah, actually about the TVZ against Beyond, I did get to talk to him a little bit at the end, and there was a moment where he had like 8 Brood Lords, and there was like 2 Vikings as defense, and he ran away, and that was definitely one of the real deciding moments on the last map there, which ended up going to like 45 minutes. Where they were fighting over just 2 geysers on the side of the map. It was pretty funny. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a super epic. Like, especially that the TVZ Beyond against a laser was like totally worthwhile to watch. Really great games, and Beyond showed like strong late game too. So maybe everyone's boy Beyond can come back this year. That'd be nice.
You think it was all of that bashing on platinum and diamond level players on new accounts that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it turns out that it's the greatest practice in the world to just continually bash bad players over and over. But
only if you multitask by typing in chat "thanks for sub" and then deleting it every time you get a sub. Like, you have to add that extra handicap.
Yeah.
That's why he could pull it out against GSL Kodos.
You know, we kid, but I always enjoy characters like Beyond in particular too, because he does add that kind of. Wears his heart on his sleeve, man. If you would have lost in this group, you bet your ass he'd be crying. And I'm not making fun. I'm saying I love that we're getting personality and that we get that kind of emotion, because these guys feel that, but a lot of them, kind of the way they handle it, or the way, like when the camera's on them and the tension is there, is they kind of pull within. Very few players like really wear it out and show it, and Beyond's one of those guys. So it's kind of cool to see him go further, I guess.
And actually, just to throw this out there, excuse me, our camera switch was a little bit slow when he won, I think, but the moment he won, man, the double fist pump, the shaking, the just like Beyond flipped out. He was so happy. And then the interview at the end was hilarious. And it's in Korean with Tesis trying to translate from our producer talking to us. So it was like difficult to get, but basically Beyond like went on and on and on. His brain was all over the place. He's like talking about this and he's talking about that. And he's talking about, and they're like, this is such a long answer. But his excitement levels, I mean, it's fun. I wish more players would show that.
Very good. So, Ravi, for you, GSL, any comments of that? You don't have to say it's. What is it for you?
I was in the unfortunate boat where I woke up and then I watched the first series of a Laser versus Classic. I was like, oh damn, that was kind of disappointing. And then I had to go to like just do work. But the one thing that I do want to comment on, which I thought was really funny, was seeing Classic go for the shield batteries proxied with the Archon drop. I thought,
oh,
is that like a real thing now? Is that a thing?
Well, here's my take on that. Is Classic tried to do it. He didn't have the mechanics to do it. Did you practice this? Like, obviously it ended up working, but that was the most difficult strategy I've ever seen. And when he set it up and, you got the camera showed the second warp prism, I was like, oh my God, he's trying this? This is going to be incredible. Yeah. And then it was very rough. And like the camera kept like cutting to the warp prism that he wasn't looking at. And like,
yeah, just
like, dude, this is the hardest thing I've ever seen in my life.
To make this clear to everyone, right? He went double warp prism, 2 Archons in each, and he brought a probe with him at the gold base in Eastwatch. He made 2 shield batteries under the prism, and then promptly with that prism with 2 Archons, lost one of the Archons. And it was just like, he ended up winning the game, but like, nobody's quite right.
Wait. So he opens the warp prism, uses it to make shield batteries.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he never made a pylon?
Never makes a pylon.
No. Never makes a pylon. What he did, right, he flies in and harasses, and then the Archons take a bunch of damage. You have to wait a bit. He just flies back, sieges up his prism to power the thing so it can heal. But the thing is, after the first time or the second time that he went in, he lost one of his Archons on the one he was recharging. And then the other prism up at the third base still had both Archons for a while. So it was like, now you have 2 shield batteries to heal an Archon, but wait, you can only use 1 to heal it. I don't know. It was kind of funny.
My favorite part about all of this is that he had to bring the probe to that location to build the 2 shield batteries. He didn't even use all the energy from one of the shield batteries. Like, he never even depleted one of them. So he just built 2 shield batteries, didn't make the pylon that could have actually been there. And I'm not 100% sure on this, but I don't think shield batteries regenerate energy if they're not powered.
I think they probably do.
I think they must. They must. Yeah, they have to.
Okay.
We're gonna go with they do.
We're getting locked up on the
this
part
sounds
where
like a slightly useful fact, so Robbie wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's like 95% useful.
God, you're such a slayer. But the funniest part to me is that you just fucking make the pylon. Like, maybe you start the shields with the warp prism, so that's cute because it builds faster and that's really cool. But then you make the pylon. There's no world. I wish, because the guy that would defend this is fucking Rotterdam, and I wish we had another guest here where he'd be like, no, it's absolutely, it's 100 minerals. Like, he'd start to explain how, because every time, and I'm gonna go on a huge tangent here. If you guys, I know you all watch Rotterdam stream, as you should. It's one of the best out there. Every time Kevin skips Warp Gate for like 10 fucking minutes. There's this huge black hole inside of me that's just like sucking my soul, like, because it doesn't. There's no argument. There's none. There's maybe a cycle of production that you skip Warp Gate, and that makes sense. But after you hit max saturation, there's no world where that 50-50 upgrade is like, well, I just can't fucking. If I do it, that's gonna cut off my abilities. No. Anyways. Huge tangent.
No, it's a good point, because when you look at strats like that are so, like, the reason you don't make the pylon is because theoretically it's so tight, like Tyler was saying, right? It's such a mechanical thing to do this. So he has to spend every fucking mineral the entire time while microing 2 warp prisms to make that pylon not worth it, right? He also needs to not get supply blocked, because if he does, then it's just a whole world that's just terrible.
You just did something so dangerous by even arguing on behalf of it. There's like 7 people in chat who succumb to the idea of like, yeah, I can see. Yeah, there's a reason not to build the pylon right now. I can see that, and you just dumbed him. You just hit him with like
it would have to be so tight. No one even plays that well. Come on.
Yeah. So the thing is, and I'm totally glad you guys went all in on this tangent, because this is why I came on the show.
Let's spend all our time.
Because no matter how good you are mechanically, even if you're Flash, pros make decisions on attention as a resource. Okay, Dan talks about this. Tasteless talks about this. Like, you can't like be an avid StarCraft fan and not have heard an expert talk about this already. But I'm gonna just emphasize it now.
Sure.
For anyone saying he shouldn't build the pylon, attention as a player is one of your resources, just the same as minerals, gas supply, army size, worker count, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you see something that it's like, oh, if I play perfectly, I can save 100 minerals. Or
Yes.
I could spend the 100 minerals, and that's going to save me so many clicks and so many decisions and attention. Then you just spend the 100 minerals, even if you're the best player in the world. So this is why it was so mind-blowing to me. Like, he wouldn't even build the pylon. It's like, dude, you're already trying the hardest strat I've ever seen. And you have this one little compromise to optimize it. Definite improvement.
Fuck no.
Just compromise a little bit. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't do it.
This concept,
man.
You know, you guys are making me want to shoot up the VOD right now and just look at how many minerals he has while he's microing this.
Yeah, just watch his macro the whole time.
Yeah.
No, his
gas supply block. That would be
because
awesome.
he didn't micro the second warp prism at all. So it was only one warp prism. He was fine, I'm sure.
You know what? There's also, let me throw this out there. That he brought a probe down to build those, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Now, when he builds a pylon at home, he's losing 5 minerals pulling that probe out of the line and making the pylon.
you're right.
He's losing 5 minerals right there. He has a probe out in the map that could have been doing something.
I'm going to extend this even further because I think we're setting some kind of record here. It's on the point that Tyler just brought because it's such a good one. But I, for a while, basically kind of towards the tail end of college and just after that, I paid for my life by coaching people in StarCraft. And that's a whole different story, but I could just tell you, for about 2 years, I spent the first lesson I had with everyone, or the one lesson I had with everyone, was me peeling back the day 9 lesson that these guys all learned. Every one of these motherfuckers watched a video with him where day 9, and I don't know what video it is, I'm sure the chat could tell you. In one of the videos, he talked about how you should never have more than one worker queued as a Terran or as a Protoss. And to Tyler's point, if you're a fucking 300 APM perfect player, you're trying to win the GSL, yeah, you shouldn't. It's inefficient. It's bad. If you can hit those cycles perfectly, it's really good, and that's a great rhythm. If you're in goddamn Silver League or Bronze or just if you're a shit tier StarCraft player and you're building one probe, and then you're over here and you're building your pylon and a gateway, and you're like, oh, I should build a probe again. And you come back over 7 minutes later, and you build a probe. Somewhere on Skype was Jeff going, no! Just build like 3. You're missing it every time. Stop. And they're like, yeah. Jeff, I have 17,000 minerals as it is right now. What are you talking about? I'm like, anyways, make the compromises. Classic couldn't do it. He's good enough that we get to laugh about this because he's still advanced at #1 in the group. But for you guys at home, make the compromises. Okay, we're not perfect players. That's it.
Yeah.
Is that
and
good?
Don't try classic strategy because you're not going to make it work. Classic Lost Archon's doing it, so it's like not going to work for you. I'm so sorry.
Who was the first? Was it Hero that did that? One of the first times on stream or at GSL was the double Warp Prism, double Archon, and my mind just absolutely melted.
I want to say it was Zest, but I could be wrong on that. But it could have been Hero too. It popped up for sure.
I love it though. Ago. I love it because when done right, especially because it's one of the longest standing builds in the meta, I would say, is the Archon drop. But when done right at first, people are like, wow, this is incredible. He's kiting backwards, and Nick's just going, he's fucking killing Zerglings, and Dan's like, ah, it's this amazing moment. But then the second Warp Prism shows up, and it's got 2 more Archons, and I was like, well, all right, I'm out. Can't ever do that.
I think there was like a week-long period also in the European scene. I think it only lasted for 1 week because everyone realized that nobody could possibly do this. But some Europeans, I think Hearthstone told me about this, started making 3 Warp Prisms and 6 Archons.
No, get out.
And they just started losing them. They're like, like they tried taking it too far.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting.
2's as far as we go. You can't. Nope. There's somebody out there though who's in the dark depths who's like 4 is actually the real number. It's like it dips down to 3, but really. It picks back up at 4.
And then he quotes something dumb. He's like, "Don't you know that 8 Archons one-shot a queen?" And it's like, what? Like, with the range, you have to surround the queen. Like, what are we doing here?
You're just putting all the Warp Prisms together. You're not even separating them anymore.
And that's Dark Shrine tech. So they could have like a fleet of carriers instead of how many minerals they spent. But no, they want to build 6 Archons with Dark Templar.
Well, that is the Pylon Show Fun Day Wednesday Challenge of the Week, you guys. So I need to see some For War Prism Archon, win replay, and if you do, Artosis will fly to your house and have dinner with you and your family. Let us know. So that's it for the GSL. It has kicked off. Dan, I know it's probably redundant, but when is it and where? Where can they check out?
It is Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. KST. That's a more European-centric show. I think it's like something like 11:30 a.m. Central European time, I believe. And then 1 p.m. KST on Saturdays here. So that would be, what? Am I ahead of you in time? Yeah, so it would be Friday evening. Yep. For people in America, basically. And yeah, it'll be every week like that until we hit the finals.
The weekend one's been really better, or really nice, if I remember that correctly. It's actually
it's nice that they split that up, because it was always like Europeans that were watching us, then the crazy Americans that stay up all night. And then now it's like half and half. It's like you have to stay up all night one of the nights, but you get together at a reasonable time.
Europeans have it so sick. Every time the few times I stayed at like the good studios or whatever, we'd wake up and have a nice cereal or whatever, and the fucking GSL comes on at 11 a.m. and I'm like, this is why Europeans are good. Anyways, so that's that. Second subject that we're going to move on to now is we're going to have a revisit to the Nation Wars format. We brought Tyler onto the show, and he said he wanted to talk a little bit about this. So Tyler, I'm going to just pass it off to you, and I want to hear what you got to think about this. So the Nation Wars, for people that don't know, the finals are coming up on the 21st of April, I think. Roddy, Zombie Grub, Funka, they just released a preview video of it today. It went out on Twitter. You can check it out. But Tyler's got some words.
First of all, I have words with you two, the host of our show.
Good.
I'm honestly appalled that you have no national pride. You have no competitive spirit. Like, America's team was an embarrassment. Obviously Neve is good. McCanning is a pretty damn good player too, and he actually showed some really good games, and I think there were a lot of players on the other teams that he could have beat. But come on, like Jon Snow should have been the third at least. And we should honestly be trying like even harder to make an even better team if we could.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Tyler? Because like some countries, so for instance, we use the example of like the Netherlands. They put forth what they thought was the best team and made no sacrifices towards, like, let's say someone who's good but would obviously be a drop-off from their top three would be Rotterdam. But in America, even as far back as Nathanius, which was just the season before, it feels like the attitude is more obviously get Neeb in there and then just like who's most popular, right?
Yeah. So here's what I think, and I don't want to misrepresent the opinions you guys shared on the last show, but it seemed like you guys were saying kind of the only two options were let's have as legitimate and competitive a competition as possible, or let's kind of make it show matchy and fun. And I think we have these legitimate competitive tournaments, but a lot of them are just kind of the same thing over and over. They all have the same feel. Obviously Home Story Cup really stands out, but a lot of the other tournaments, especially, WCS just over and over again, it's the same thing over and over again. When you get a format like Nation Wars, it's built in, it's inherently different. So you can still be super competitive about it, make it as legit a competition as possible. But because it's a team tournament and the teams are made by where you're from, like that's its thing. That's its twist that is going to set it apart. So I think that a legit competitive Nation Wars type tournament is exactly the thing the scene needs to, have something different between a super casual tournament that is trying really hard to be different and stand out and not be really serious and competitive, and the kind of bland, repetitive, generic tournaments that we get all the time. And like, I feel like this is a missed opportunity if the community is okay with embracing Nation Wars as a show match type
missed opportunity
event.
So what do you think then? Move to a qualifier, or because I think what I would submit is you can't do a vote because Avila got voted in just because of the drama. It wasn't because of anything else.
There was also one thing that was really weird to me about the voting, which is you could vote every single day. That was really weird because it meant that the people who were like diehard fans of, let's say, like a streamer or something would be like streamers would say, okay, go vote for me today, go vote for me today every single time. Whereas a lot of the players that aren't streaming, especially with like WCS and all that other stuff like popping around, you have like all these other events, are not streaming, and they don't really have that way of saying like, hey, go vote for me every single day, the same way that streamers would. So it was like I wasn't a huge fan of the fact that like it wasn't just one vote for the entire period.
I mean, I think forming the teams is definitely the most difficult problem. I put a lot of thought into how you would do that, and I don't have a solution, but I think it's something that could be worked on. One thing I was thinking is the organizers could try to appoint one person who is at least the top 3 in the country. Hopefully they could do that for most countries. I think most countries there's a really obvious person.
Yeah.
So that's one guy, and hopefully he accepts and participates. You could also have a ladder thing go on where the number 1 ladder player for each country gets invited, and hopefully they accept, and that could be like a combination good thing of it could be an up and coming player, it gets the ladder revitalized a little bit, I don't know, and then there are different ways to do it, and I don't know. If I wanted to, I could make a huge post about it, like a blog about it. But first, I mean, I don't think we should put all that work in unless the organizers are actually willing to change what their event is, and
or if that's what most people want. I think which is because I don't disagree with you. For me personally, I always want the more hardcore stuff. I always want competition, and I want it to be the best players because. I mean, and I think that's generally a StarCraft thing where like I think it generally attracts people that are more interested in watching the best play and seeing something along those lines. So if that is the case, I would love it if Nation Wars or somebody did some kind of poll and said, hey, for the next Nation Wars, are you interested in seeing the best players, or do you like the format we have now where we tacitly acknowledge that this is not necessarily the best players? Or something. You'd have to simplify that a lot more than what I just said, obviously, because otherwise you'd be getting some weird responses. Well, but go ahead, Dan.
Because there is a vote, I think it's that's what screws it all up. Because you won't get the best players. So there either would have to be a qualification, and then it would be a hardcore tournament, like Tyler's saying, and that would be fun. And I'd enjoy that. Like I loved the Nation Wars we had in StarCraft 1, where it was just like, okay, the best players are on each team, and like they bash heads, and it's like really cool. But because there's a vote, I think that because the thing is, you have certain countries, like you brought up Netherlands again. We talked about that so much, right? Like if Roddy enters, he gets in without any question, right?
Yep.
But he doesn't, so they have a stronger team, and then it's like, well. Then on USA, we always have some personalities that enter it, and then they get in because they're popular. And popularity contests just don't have anything to do with skill. Like, even look at Team Korea. Like, isn't MMA on Team Korea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is in no fucking way top 3, top 10, top 20, top 32. He's, like, the thing is, he's a very good player, and people want to watch him. And there's a vote, so that's what we get. But, like, yeah, I don't know. With the voting system, you can't have this thing that Tyler's talking about. Like, it just... popularity can't correlate because like to be a great StarCraft player, a lot of times you have to, not stream as much or not be as popular because you're just practicing all the time and you don't have that developed, personality at that point.
And it is interesting because one of the ideas is like having a captain. That is another form of popularity as well. You'd like to believe that captain would pick the 3 best, and maybe in most cases they would, but there'd also be that scenario where someone's in a more competitive nation, perhaps they pick their buddy who's really good. I personally still think that's a better alternative than what you get with the just open voting once a day, as Robbie said, where the people that are obviously, streamers of almost any kind are going to get more votes than perhaps some of these like up and coming top players. So, but like I said, I think the first thing you have to distill is you have to say, is this what the community wants? Because I agree with Tyler, but maybe that's our personal criticism as opposed to actually what is best for this thing. I don't actually know. I don't know that their viewership suffers or anything. Go ahead, Tyler.
What I would say to that is I really doubt that the few words I've said now really do a good job of allowing people to picture the kind of event and that I'm imagining. And so they don't know how much they would like the proposed event until they've seen it executed well. And so it's, if they're enjoying the current event, and you propose a different kind of event that they don't really understand or see the potential in, then nothing will ever change. I would say that if people like an event with popular streamers or casters or whatever, mixing it up with some of the better players, maybe there should, that's its own gimmick. That's its own thing. Like, why mix that up with Nation Wars? Like, if that is what this version of Nation Wars kind of is defined by, then why not just do that without having the Nation Wars thing be part of it, and let kind of old school Nation Wars come back to whatever extent it can, StarCraft 2. Like, just like do another event. Like, I think the guys running this event put on a good production, and
do another one.
Yeah, I just hate to see, because I have fond memories of Nation Wars. I didn't participate in a million of them, but I participated in enough, and I watched enough of them. Like, we had something really cool in the Brood War days, and it's kind of sad, because obviously I think most people saw the kind of cringe moment when the interviewer asked Cyril to like trash talk, and he was like,
"This
what are you talking about?"
It's like, this is so annoying.
yeah, and it's like, I think that stuff will kind of develop naturally if all the players really get into competitive spirit. Maybe not every single player is going to do it, and if that's not Cyril's personality, it'll never come out of Cyril, but that's fine.
Yep.
But it could be a little more organic and produced naturally. But
so I'm gonna throw to you in a second here, Robbie. So you need to prepare something to say here. But before that, because that's the kind of show we got here. Okay. I hear you not talking. You're gonna talk in a second. But I want to say, so I'm gonna peel back the curtain a little bit, and we try to be really honest with the show. I actually, Tyler, I'm not even kidding you, I pitched that exact idea for the most part to Blizzard. We kind of have had some talks where we're like, because one of the things you touched on that actually we're going to talk about the WCS, that's one of our subjects today. WCS kind of feels the same across the board, and it's actually kind of felt that way more or less, and they're aware of this, by the way, over the years. Even I would say each WCS show has kind of fallen into this rhythm that is cool, but a little bit stagnating in that way. It's stagnated in that way. I said I want Nation Wars, and I said I wanted it the way we had it, which was 5-6-man rosters made up of the best and the up and coming, whatever, usually led by a captain of some sort. And then it was this full-on system of, and you would kind of do away with the ace guy all killing and revival, which became like a guy from a Nation War as opposed to Nation Wars. And we even had 2v2 formats back in the day. I don't know if you could do that now, but maybe with some map love, you get Avex and some of these guys involved, and it really becomes this cool separate thing. They didn't tell me no. They didn't say it's a terrible idea. They really liked it, but
Archon mode.
Yeah, that would be sick. I'm going to do the dangerous thing where I assume kind of what's going on in Blizzard's side, which so far, by the way, just to be clear, I'm batting 0% every time. Blizzard's like, no, that's wrong, Jeff. And then they explain what actually is going on. But I'm going to try again, guys. I think Blizzard really likes the idea of giving money to people that are making content in the scene already. And this is the Nation Wars thing is definitely O Gaming. They grabbed that in StarCraft 2 scene, and that's what they own. So I think that's why that fell that way. I would implore people to, if that sounds interesting to you, and like Tyler said, in order to understand, even to judge it really, you kind of have to see it, or at least conceptualize it to give it a shot. But I too would love to push for a true Nation War of like 5-man rosters, 4 1v1s, and then a tiebreaker ace or something. Like it was so fucking exciting back then. I'm not saying the Nation Wars right now is not exciting, but I am saying that the format tends to be a little bit of a popularity contest. A lot of the same countries are in the finals. And it's not necessarily because they're best. It's a little bit because their country takes it more try-hard. Or they have like the really strong ace player that just carries the shit out of them. So those are my thoughts. But Robbie, what are you thinking about Nation Wars?
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you just said. I think the thing that bugs me a bit for Nation Wars is that I feel like it's because we've been talking a lot about what the community wants, but I'm almost more curious what O Gaming wants, right? Because ultimately it's their event, right? They have the ultimate say. And this is what's kind of weird to me is I feel like there's aspects like the whole voting thing where it's like, yeah, we want the like most popular people, but then the whole all kill format and the revive thing, like all these things kind of signal to me that they want like the best players to also win, or like they want like the star player stuff. So it's like, it's the fact that they have this like mix in between the two of what they kind of want, of like, do you want the best players or do you want like a bunch of really entertaining people? Because it's like hard to balance like both and do both, or like do both of them at this really well at the same time. And that's what I kind of get confused about. And I actually, you guys mentioned the Archon mode thing. This is something I've been thinking about for a while. Like, how would you change the format? Because the reason why I think you guys mentioned this last week on the show, like why they probably do the all kill format and the revive is because they don't just want a pro league style format where they have a best of like 5. They want to do like best of 7 or whatever for longer matches. But like having like an Archon mode for the last match or something, like something fun or weird like that would maybe be interesting if they want to go more toward like the fun route. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe you just require 4 people.
I don't even know, like, I don't know that like it doesn't have the same effect though when someone says I don't think they want the pro league format, because we don't have pro league anymore. So it's like in StarCraft 2. So I'd be down with that. And what we do have is a ton of groups that are like 4 players, best of 3, loser, winner, decider match. Like that seems to be the format. We'll talk about that again in WCS. And that's of course not what's going on in Nation Wars, but to your point, the format that we do have is seeing those WCS players beating each other. One beats the other, the other one gets revived, they fight again, and then it's like a pseudo best of 3. Or it goes 1-1 sometimes, I guess, but for the most part it's like a best of 3.
I want to jump back to actually something Ravi just said, where he wants to know what O Gaming wants. I think that's actually a very important thing. Like, we can't ask the community what they want necessarily on this. I think that's like a dangerous thing. I get a lot of questions like, oh, what kind of content should I make for the community? And I see people post on like Reddit or something like, what do you guys want to see? The thing is, the community doesn't actually know. As a group, it doesn't know. Individual people might know generally what they want to see, but what the content that should be made by everyone is the content that they want to make, because that's what they're going to make well. And that's, if you make content that you like, there will be other people that are like you that are going to like this content. And so I think it is more like, oh, gaming, where do you want this to go? Like, the thing is, it's already a great show, and I think it's already successful. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like everyone really enjoys the hell out of it.
They like it.
So it's like, it's just kind of like, oh, gaming, all of us like your show, and personally, we think it could be, maybe a little bit more streamlined in one way or the other, or a little bit more, a bit more of a statement as to what you're looking for here. But yeah, anyways.
I'm really glad that Jeff said that he was thinking about the Pro League format, because that's the other thing that I did want to bring up, but you already said it. I just want to talk about it for a second, though. I just think the Pro League format solves a lot of issues. I mean, who gets on the team, that's a whole separate issue. But once you're in the tournament, I think the Pro League format would actually just be way better, especially if you are getting told the maps in advance and having to submit lineups blind of what the other team is submitting. So that's the way it worked when I was in Korea and actually participating in Pro League. I never played in Pro League, but I helped my team prepare for it. So like you get a list of maps and you say this guy's playing on this map, this guy's playing on this map, blah blah blah, and then one day in advance of the match, you find out who your opponent is, and then you have some time to prepare a strat for that best of 1 on that map for a single matchup. And the strats that some of the worst players can pull out and upset the better players, it's a really cool thing. So like, again, I don't want to keep talking about M. Canning, but like, I think he's
he's in the chat, so go as long as you can. Yeah, for sure.
All right, he's not Cyril, right? And well, even if he tried really hard, I don't think he could beat Cyril. But he could beat, maybe not the best foreigner at the moment. But like another top foreigner, just a really good pro player, if he had like one map, one matchup to really focus on.
Yep. And
I think it would be really, I would be so excited to see what he prepared. But when you just show up to the match and it's the way these matches play out, it's like they're playing ladder, because it's like, who's my next opponent? Who's my next map? Like, they can't prepare special strats. If these guys are preparing special strats, it'd be so exciting. And then the ace match thing, I think, is a way cooler thing than a revive. So like for the ace match, you can like
It is the
revive
best player versus
someone
best player,
technically,
yeah,
but
typically.
yeah,
But yeah, it's not an all-kill type of
Yeah.
thing. And
yeah.
in fact, two things about that. One, all-kill format, like Pro League was so fun, and then one time a year for a little chunk, they would have all-kill format, because fans do like to see that sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah.
Generally, what Noni said is more exciting overall, I think. But also, I think that if someone wanted to go down this route, and it wouldn't even necessarily need to be Nation Wars, but this type of format is tried and tested and proven to be exciting, you need more than 3 people on the team as well. And they need to be different races also, because that's one way that they kept it fresh, is you can't field the same race on the same map twice in a row. Otherwise, you just get mirror matchups across all the maps. So just throwing that out there.
I think a lot of countries would have trouble with that because there's already countries that I know want to sign up, but they just straight up, they can't even get 3 players. So as soon as you bump it up to 4, like it becomes a problem because there are a lot of countries, I think.
Then they can't sign up.
Players.
Yeah, like for example, it's not relevant this year because he's basically off on the Dota train. But I remember, like for example, Pili was like a really good player last year, but he couldn't play because Kazakhstan didn't have 3 players. So it's like, I know that there are a lot of teams on Nation Wars.
I'm gonna drop it real for you, Robbie. Like in Nation Wars, if Kazakhstan can't sign up because they're having a tough time finding 3 players, I'm okay with it. I'm pretty okay with it.
But like, okay, let's go to Mexico, for example. You got Major, you got Cham, and you got Jim Rising. They don't have a substitute player. Mexico wouldn't be able to sign up if you didn't have 4 people.
They would find 2 players, and that would be the weakness in their roster. And then those guys would train up a fucking... This guy's name would be like Canadian Bacon Ham Face, and he would cannon rush the ever-living shit out of Cyril, and Cyril's like, what is happening? And this is like amazing moment.
Yeah.
There's people with Mexican flags, and they're just in the streets throwing confetti. It's this great story. Or he probably loses almost every game. And then the better nation that has 5 good players does really well.
And if you put your lamb out to slaughter, that's awesome. Like
that's also
if they
strategy.
If they have some shitter and they correctly predict what map Cyril's playing, and they put their lamb out to slaughter, then you just wasted Cyril. Cyril could have beat Special maybe, but now he beat whoever, you know.
It's another layer of strategy, which I love. Which in this current format, there's no it's just a guy out there with a scythe, just like fucking shucking wheat, just right, just murdering everything. Like, oh wow, oh that guy did try a 2-gate proxy, cool. Oh.
And just that type of thing as well. Like, I think that's almost a good thing when you think about it. That those countries might have a harder time because instead, what you have, because it is all format and it is such small teams, Finland might fucking win Nation Wars. Is that the best nation for StarCraft?
Yeah,
or is Cyril just one of the best players, right? If you have a bigger roster, then it becomes more realistic. Like, Mexico does very well in Nation Wars. Is it one of the best countries? It's got 2 really good players and a couple good players. But, like, Mexico maybe overall shouldn't be as strong as Germany or something, right? But, like, maybe it'll do better. And so I guess, in these situations where it's a little bit harder to get in, it's like, well, you have your star player, and it's fun to watch a match because of that. But the actual depth of a nation should come into play as to what nation is the best.
Oh, I'm getting nerd chills because there's all kinds of stuff like your 2 versus 2 team might be really strong, and that carries you through because you'd like win 1 or 2 matches, win the 2 versus 2, and then you get to the ace match and your best player was better than them. But you had these 2 matches like Ty was talking about where you had these guys that were just worse than everybody else. So the strategy was like, all right, let's get you a snipe strategy, but let's try to pair you up. There'd always be a ridiculous map that's like Mega Terran or Zerg or Protoss favored, and you'd throw out the shitter and be like, good luck, have fun. And then I'll tell you what, there was a tournament called the Sandlot way back in Brood War, and I was the shitter. I was one of the guys, like, we had a Korean, we had a top European, and then I think Sen was on our team, and I was like the 4th best guy, but I beat 2 Koreans in that tournament, and I've never felt like that was some of the best feelings I've ever had, because they threw me to the Korean. The Koreans never fucking heard of me before, and I bust out these ridiculous 9-pool speed strategies for like perfect micro and shit, and I fucking start winning this game, and I'll tell you what, it felt pretty good. And I'm not saying, just to bring it full circle, you can't have this in the current format. I think the general attitude, if I could speak for everyone, and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, I feel like there's more to be had here, and I really like the term that Tyler used, which is missed opportunity. This is cool, but I'm talking 2 chicks at the same time. Okay? To quote Office Space, it could be more. Anna doesn't watch the show, by the way, guys. So we're totally safe. Don't worry about it. It could be something really, really amazing, and I hope we pursue it, or something else pops up, because it's not scratching the itch for me. I almost feel embarrassed. This is the second week we've done the show, and the second time we talked about it, and I'm just like, I didn't really watch it because.
Well, I think this is a better talk this time as well, having Robbie and Tyler here. And I got to tell you what, I think because it's finishing up and stuff, we should check with Funka and see if he wants to come on the show and
we will
talk about.
I already thought of that,
because I think that would be. Oh, okay.
In fact, with what Tyler said, I think I don't have to ask him.
Yeah, I already thought of that, Artis. I already thought of that.
We will.
We talk about GSO. I was like, I already thought of that. But yeah, I think it would be cool to actually hear straight from the horse's mouth, what they think about all of it. Because I'm sure that the thing is, you have to eventually make a decision to go with the format and go with it. And I'm quite sure that, they do such a good job. They have to have some strong opinions themselves on what parts of it are good and what should be revamped and stuff like that.
Okay, so Tyler, are you good with that? Can we move on, or you got a final word?
I'm good with that. I think there were more good points made than I even dreamed of. So
wow,
that's awesome.
That's a good plug for the show. Cobra, save that soundbite right there. We're going to put together a highlight video later. So the third subject, this one is Artosis. Artosis brought up that in the ASL, which just kicked off, a young player by the name of Flash is pursuing his third ASL victory in a row. Fourth, excuse me. I apologize.
Fourth.
At the end of his third one, he was joking about possibly switching races because it was so goddamn easy. And I just want to put my little thing in there that I'm going to hand it off to Dan. In Brood War, because they don't adjust balance, it's always been through maps that you adjust balance for the game for the most part. And Dan, the map pool had a little bit something to say, I guess.
Yeah, okay, so ASL, right? Flash wins 3 in a row, once again cementing himself as the greatest of all time and stuff. But as Jeff said, in the past, right, we haven't had a patch since like 1999, so it is map-based how we do the balance. And for instance, there's something called like the Legend of the Fall, where Protoss players win in the fall a lot. Well, the maps go more towards Protoss at that time of year. If races aren't doing as well, you might shift the maps a little bit and stuff like that. And this season, it went a little bit overboard, right? We have one very regular map, just a good map in general in Gladiator. It's kind of standard overall. It's got a couple little interesting things about it, but that's a normal map. And then there's 3 other maps that are madness for Terran. There's Sparkle, which is an island map. It's the first time in like 13 years or something that we've had a professional island map in the Korean scene in StarCraft 1. And they made it in such a way that Zerg freely gets an extra gas, and Terran's Zerg starts on 3 gases, and Terran starts on 2, and Protoss starts on 2. And like watching Terrans play against Zerg here is the fucking funniest thing you've ever seen. They can't win. And then there's Third World, which is a map where it's half island, and Zerg instantly gets 3 gases on this map as well.
They used to try to hide it at least.
Yeah, and then there's Transistor, which TVZ doesn't seem quite as bad on this map, but TVP is just a nightmare on this map as well. And by the way, Third World is completely Protoss favorite, but Sparkle seems okay. So, right, there's 4 maps. There's generally 4 maps per league, and 3 of them are Terran sniping map. There's Terran sniping maps, right? So if you look at the qualifiers were on regular maps, and we had the normal players get in that you would expect. We had all the top Terrans get in, like the top 6 Terrans or whatever it is, and the top 7 Zergs, top 7 Protoss, something like that. But there was no complaints from the qualifiers, right? Like all the top guys, literally in order. Like the 7th best Terran Piano didn't make it in, but all the others did. And then we hit the actual group stage, right? With all these anti-Terran maps, because again, they're trying to get Flash. Okay, and in fact, there's an interview on Team Liquid. I know but Flash did a wonderful interview with Team Liquid. Cheers to them. It's the best piece of content I've ever read on that site. And he actually even says, he's like, I was getting kind of complacent, winning 3 in a row. I didn't feel like as motivated anymore. This doesn't mean as much, right? He's already won the Golden Ruler and shit by winning the 3 of them in a row. It's crazy. But then he's like, and then I saw the map pool. And I thought to myself, if they're going to these lengths to defeat me, I'm motivated again. So basically, these maps are so anti-Terran that Flash literally said that this motivated him because he wants to show them that they can't kill him with maps, which is, oh, nerd chills. Oh my God, it's so crazy. But anyways, we have some of the groups on the screen. This is what happened to the Terran players during the round of 24, right? Flash gets seeded automatically in the round of 16 because he's the champion. But for everyone else, every Terran died except for Mind. Okay, and Mind is second to third best Terran at all times, and he has been for a long time. And the reason why Mind won is because he had another Terran in his group. So he beat someone in a TVT, right? And then he just held a Zergling all in on Transistor. And that was literally Mind was like, hey, I'm through the next round. And then guess what happened in the group selection? Flash gets to choose his first opponent first.
Mind.
Fucking chooses Mind immediately. That is how bad these maps are. And Mind is one of the best TVT players of all time, right? Normally Flash will do something like choose the weakest Zerg player. That's his normal strat, but the maps are too crazy. So he chooses Mind. So anyways, here we are. The maps are ridiculous. And I mean, Flash will probably win again, but this, I feel like it went too far because from the round of 16 up, we have like no Terran play. Yeah, okay, you guys can talk. Everyone's like, no, that's it. I'm like, okay, next subject, sick.
They went too far. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm looking at the maps right now. Yeah. Like, I'm pulling them up on Wikipedia, and like, you know, I heard your description of them. I haven't watched these games, but like, you know,
it was an accurate description.
This is ridiculous. I would never imagine that they would actually go this far.
Literally a neutral hatch with the gas so that nobody but a Zerg can take it. That's
yeah. Let me ask you this, Dan. Like, do you think that because, you know, the scene is, I don't know how to say, I'm not like really tapped in the scene, but you are, so I'm going to ask you, maybe this is a dumb question. It's obviously it's way less professional in a sense, or like established than it used to be when there were like 13 teams sponsored by corporations.
Yeah.
And now, you know, now they're all streamers. Like, do you think they just said, you know, we're not where we used to be, let's make this fun. We don't care that we're screwing a bunch of people over. Like, this is what will be the most interesting for this season. Let's just do it. This isn't really a legit competition anymore the way it used to be.
Okay, so I think that it's felt to be pretty legit out here overall. Still out of control. Like, we get over K concurrence each time on ASL in Korea. And you know, Freaka seems to be doing
He said
well.
100K, guys. He said 100K. Go ahead.
100K, yeah.
Yeah, 100. We get 100,000 concurrence in Korea.
Oh, I thought you were joking.
No. The Korean streams get 100,000.
Jesus.
Watching these matches, people are watching VODs and stuff. I mean, it's going well. Like, Afrika's actually going to have a real TV station out here soon, not just internet TV. So like, and StarCraft 1 is one of the flagship products for us. So it's doing well. But I think that, you know, in the old days, there would be maps and there was a bunch of professional map makers. I've actually met them, like smart guys that made maps and like really worked on it. Full-time jobs, literally just making maps for the pro scene. And the thing is, the maps would get submitted to the pro teams, and each pro team would come back and talk about what they thought about the maps, what was good, what was bad. And every pro team had multiple players of every race. So there was like this big checklist system to get stuff balanced. Now, the pros still are getting the maps ahead of time and helping Afrika to try to make them a little bit better. Like, some of the first versions of these maps were way worse than what we have right now even. But it's a lot harder to do that now, I think. And they are trying to make it like fun and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I hope that answered your question.
God, that picture is actually sick as well. My God.
Have there been any interviews with the other Terran players that are not Flash to see what their thoughts are? Like, because are there like
yeah, they don't get interviews because they're out of the tournament.
I meant like even with like outside, like not during the actual broadcast and stuff, but just like general people going up to them and talking to them about these like things. Because like, if it was getting to that point where only Flash could win, then I would be concerned about like them retiring or something and be like, this isn't worth it anymore.
Well,
like, as long as Flash is playing Terran.
This isn't how you make your money. You don't make your money being as a StarCraft 1 guy in Korea. You make it as a streamer, and then you play in the Freak League. Everyone watches it. It's like, it's cool. Why wouldn't you, right? And there's money to be made, but people are making their actual living from streaming. So it's not like StarCraft 2 where you have to win tournaments or place high in tournaments to have your money.
Or have a dank as shit podcast, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's cool. It just sets the groundwork. At Cobra, our wonderful producer, showed the bracket. So when is the ASL going to that round of, I think it's, what, 8 or 16?
Yeah, round of 8 starts this Sunday at 7 p.m. KST. Yeah, and I have one more final thing to say about the maps. I think if Flash wins this season, you just accept that he will win whatever ASL he's motivated to practice for, and you make the maps a little bit more normal so we can have better racial diversity throughout the tournament.
Let me ask you this.
You make him normal, but you handicap him specifically. Like, literally, you make his starting spot.
You force him to switch his race, man. I want to see him win Protoss, so I can just smile for the rest of my life.
That race will be screwed then, though, because then that race is going to have their maps screwed over.
I'm waiting for that.
There's Ravi talking about Kazakhstan again. I'm just over here like, I don't think he gets it. It's it's the snowflake of StarCraft. All right, listen, so we'll move on to the next subject, and I'm excited about this one as well because I think we're gonna get a mixed bag of comments. But over this past weekend and a little bit before that, I believe, in Korea, not only was Flash still power bombing nerds' faces into the ground, but there was also no regret in the friends at Project Unity, the house over there. They put on a tournament, and they put on a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere-styled tournament. I tuned in a few times, and I'm not entirely sure if it was actually just a tournament. I'm just calling it that, but it felt like it was... I think like Hero got sick, and Scarlet stepped in for the finals or something like that, and there's some interesting stuff going on, but it was definitely a tournament inspired by Home Story Cup, so... Just kind of go around the horn. Whoever wants to start. Did you guys watch that? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I watched. I watched a little bit. I didn't watch a whole lot, but I did.
Memes and Dreams, by the way. I didn't say the name. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Memes and Dreams. But it went really well overall. No regret. I would talk to you yesterday at GSL Studio. He said that they peaked at like 5.7 thousand concurrent viewers.
Awesome.
So that's really legit for like a kind of a smaller tournament that started.
What channel was it even on?
It was on Scarlet, so Twitch TV /Scarlet M.
It was actually on 3 channels because they had some cool production stuff where they like had the first person perspective on the Nerd Street channel and one other channel I can't remember, and then the main stream was on Scarlet's channel.
Cool.
So it was pretty cool of that.
Yeah. All right. So they had the first person perspectives, which is neat. But they got enough donations that they can run another one, and they will be doing that pretty soon. No regret's already getting it together. They got enough donations, like he bought some new microphone headsets. Wink, wink, guys. And I mean, it seems like it went really well. It was like 2 GSL style groups per day, and then they did all the round of 8, round of 4 finals in one day. So it was a hell of a lot of work and casting right in a row, and it seemed cool. It was like kind of a relaxed vibe. I was teasing no regret. I tuned in at one point. And it was like a game just ended, and then I just watched them all eat chicken for 10 minutes. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna check what else. No, it's kind of fun to see that, right? And kind of that different type of content, and it's a great opportunity to do that because it's a house full of foreigners, and they're friends with a bunch of Koreans, so those guys come over. Great games to be had.
Ravi, did you check it out?
Oh yeah, I got to see little bits and pieces of it. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but yeah, I think it was a cool, like, especially as a first attempt kind of thing for this, because I know that they have done tournaments in the house like last year when it was the base trade house and stuff. I know that they did little like things where they invite a bunch of Korean players over, but this is like I think different scale in terms of how they handled it, and it's like multi-day tournament and everything. So I think they did a lot of stuff really well, and I'm sure it's just gonna get better because like. Small things like what Dan was talking about with just like the awkwardness of like, okay, just everybody's going to go eat. I think they even learned like one of the other days. They kind of learned a little bit. I don't think they fully learned because they just said like, okay, stats, cast a game by yourself. And he's like, I don't know English. Like he's just like sitting there like trying to convey simple information and sort of struggling. So like they kind of gradually learn. I think they stuck Jake on there to co-cast with him a bit, but yeah, okay. I like that they're trying something new. It's kind of going back to what you were talking about, Jeff, where like every tournament feels the same, so it's cool to just see things that are not the same.
Yeah, it was cool they copied Home Story Cup. I agree. Before we pass it off, before we pass over to Tyler, who I can rely on giving the real talk, I will say I actually thought for a first-ish effort by them, the production was actually pretty sick in the sense that they had kind of the common room. They had like a little caster booth area where they had a webcam there as well. And I think what people crave from this kind of content is seeing the personalities of their favorite players behind the scenes. So you did get that. And I thought No Regret did a really good job of allowing for that to shine through and for you to experience that. And it went pretty smoothly too, by the way. Some of these nerds out here, by the way, like they make starting a podcast look really easy, not being muted, that kind of stuff. Like it's fucking hard, okay? But these guys did a pretty good job of making it look pretty easy. For instance, the time I tuned in, I saw Special scratch and pull at his belly button, and he kind of rolled around on the couch for a little while there, and then got up and was like hugging and clutching people. And I was like, this is what I want when I tune into a show. I want to see Special grabbing at people and getting half naked. But Tyler, can you guys hear the kids outside the window? I don't know if you can hear.
Okay.
Anyways, Tyler, go ahead. Bring it down. Bring down the house for us, buddy. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me start by saying that if everyone else is being critical, I would be happy to be the guy to be positive and point out the positive things and say, look, these guys are making content. This is good. Let's encourage people. Let's just give constructive feedback, blah, blah, blah. You guys, I don't know when it happened, but like, I feel like 5 years ago, you guys would not be so positive and nice and encouraging. But now you are. And so it's up to me to just be an asshole. So I guess I'm going to be the asshole here because I have to be.
I don't know what you're talking about, Tyler.
Okay. So, all right. Let me just say that. Let me start off by describing like this. If we decided let's run a tournament, and this is going to be its thing. This is going to be its gimmick. Let's do a satire of a StarCraft gaming house running a tournament and include every shitty thing that you would expect to be in such a broadcast. That's what it was. I tuned in. I didn't know if it was a satire or not. Those sloppy fucking just rolled out of bed, ugly ass pro gamers that like. Oh my God. And then you had the microphone that could hear every sound in the room, not a personal microphone. And then you had the player casters with the heavy accents that are like, all over here is like they're talking with this heavy accent. I couldn't understand half the casting. And then just as the game is getting good, they're like, can you hear the music? Is the music? We should have some music playing. And it's like the deciding fight of the game is happening right there. So production, okay, but not being so, making it a laughing matter.
I fucking love you so much, my guy.
They're gonna improve. They're gonna improve their production. They're gonna get better mics. That stuff's gonna improve. Anyone who speaks 2 languages, they're one up on me. You have an accent, that's fine. Just some of these things, like, I'll say this: if you're gonna put on a tournament, it has to feel like somebody there has a passion for like putting on a good tournament. And it felt more like we need to make some money. We're really good at StarCraft and people want to see us hang out. Let's give them what they want. But the element of let's produce a really good tournament felt a little bit missing to me. And I don't know, I think that'll improve, and it's kind of okay if it's missing, but to me it sticks out that it is missing. And so I just don't feel like anyone there has a passion for let's make the best event ever. It's more like let's do the best we can, and hopefully it's good enough and we'll slowly improve. And that's fine, and it's going to work. And a lot of people loved it. And honestly, I can watch the tournament on mute and just watch the gameplay, and I'm perfectly happy. Like, I just want to see the games. Other people want to see the memes and they want to hear the dreams or whatever. That's fine. I'll watch the games. But about the games, let me say this. These guys some of these players were not as good. They're better than me, but they're not as good as the top pros. So the gameplay is a little bit worse. And the people who are better are about to play in GSL. Like, they're not showing their best games. Like, the level of play that was there was just a little bit lower. So it's not like we're seeing some really awesome games.
It's like a first, second, and third prize pool and stuff. Was it?
Yeah.
There was money, but I think it was
$800 and $400. Okay.
Yeah, it's enough money so that people aren't screwing around, but like nobody's prioritizing it really.
Right.
What else do I want to say? So the casting, then this is just a general about players casting.
Oh, please.
Okay. So obviously all the polish of like an experienced good caster is missing, and that's fine, even if like nobody there is sort of providing that polish, which no regret was the guy who was kind of trying to be the host and smooth things over, and I don't expect him to be awesome on the first try. Nobody would be. So I'm not criticizing him, but just talking in general about player casting, I think there's a real missed opportunity here with the way they cast. So the way that they cast is like, especially in this situation, people would think that if I could just be a fly on the wall in a room where pros are watching a tournament and I'm hearing them talk during the games, that would be amazing. And actually, it's not that amazing because the players see the games as like a script playing out. And when one player makes a good move, they're like, you know, oh, this guy's got the advantage now. Like the script's going to play out a certain way. Like, so when they're casting, it's bereft of any like excitement. They're not excited to see somebody play well and win. To them, that they just played as expected. They didn't mess it up.
Yeah.
So now they win.
Like a result.
So, yeah. So when they're talking about the game, it's just like they're saying, oh, you know, this guy's doing this strat, this guy's doing this strat. It's going to play out like this. And then, you know, there's an interaction between the players. One guy comes out ahead, one guy's behind, and they note that. And they're just like, now this guy has an advantage and he's going to do this. And like, there's nobody there with a passion for explaining their understanding of the game to the viewers. And that's what casting is. And so I felt like that was really missing. And then there's nobody there with a passion for seeing good players play well. Like, I didn't feel like anybody got, because to them it's just routine. When somebody does what they're supposed to, they're like, oh, they played right, they didn't mess up. And it, like, there's just definitely something missing. And for me, it's just disappointing because the way I would try to cast, I'm sure it's really hard. You got to like look at the production tab. And that was the other thing is like they're pros and they're just like watching the fights and not watching the production tab. And some of them are getting surprised about what's coming. So that kind of contradicts my whole it's a script thing, but it kind of is a script anyway. They're just like a minute behind when with their pro gamer knowledge, they should be a minute ahead and be a little bit better about explaining the tension that is coming. And I don't know. It's just,
Robbie?
Yeah. So like I agree with like 95% of what you just said, Tyler.
Yeah.
But the 5% I disagree on is I feel like all the things that you're describing are the things that if I'm a tournament organizer or something, or I'm the one putting on this kind of event, these are all things that I would do if I wanted this tournament to be taken super seriously. And I feel like everything I saw or like everything I've seen about this was that they weren't like, I think there's kind of like almost like the facade that it's going to be a super serious tournament because you have players like Stats and like Scarlet and like super good players playing. But like, it's like you said, it's not a ton of prize money. It's quite literally named a memes and dreams tournament. And it's like going back to like the whole thing about Jeff talking about like just seeing special, like being half naked on camera and like hugging people or like random stuff like this. I think to me, that's the impression that I got of what they wanted to have is like just that whole, it's not the fly on the wall so that you can like learn about super cool things on StarCraft because like there's all these intricate details that they'll just constantly be sputtering out. But it's like just the fact that you get to see them hanging out in this super casual sense. That was the sense that I got of like what they were aiming for is that they wanted something that was like hyper casual. People would just kind of hear, and this is what it's like almost like to be in the house, but we'll have like this organized thing so that people are playing games. That's like the sense that I got.
There's a happy medium ground or middle ground, excuse me, though, where like I think part of the reason why Home Story Cup got it so correctly is that it is players casting. It is a lot of thick accented, typically not casting players, but it's mixed in with people that know that I think what the audience wants is a healthy mix of these guys, but then also someone saying, hey, you know, what did they do wrong in the situation? What do you think is the better strategy here? And then they start the discussion on like, oh my God, we're getting Snoot giving us analysis on how to play Zerg in the situation. And that's amazing. As opposed to, and this does happen, Home Straight Cup. I don't know whose mic, my voice is coming through, but it's, anyways. Was it you, Dan? It's always fucking
No,
Dan.
it's not me.
He's got headphones
I have
on, but
headphones
it's
on.
Dan.
What is
It
this?
is Dan.
Typing too.
It's
I'm sitting
Dan.
here quietly being good. God.
Anyways, at the you guys, I'll give you another pull back the curtain moment, like towards the end of Home Story Cup when the
Robbie
commentators.
doesn't even have earbuds in. And
I
you
have
think it's me.
earbuds.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
They fucking did.
They're just so subtle.
It's Dan. It's fine. We'll move on. Towards the end of Home Story Cup, because it's like a 5-day tournament, when the commentators are all hungover and like really tired, and it starts to be more and more of the players paired together. It's exactly what Tyler's talking about. But then they start to find like, oh, okay, Harsum has a really good hosting etiquette and personality, and you know, Todd's willing to always work actually, so Todd's always there. But you start to pair them appropriately. And I see people in the chat, and I definitely respect this. They want something different. They want, you know, it's okay that it's not the most best casted thing. But I think, to speak on Tyler's behalf, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, the cool, better middle ground that I hope No Regret kind of gets it to is pair them with someone that can direct the conversation away from just like, okay, he's opened up 16 Marines. Oh, wow, he did go for the 4th Queen. This will be interesting. Kind of. I see it already 10 minutes into the future, and it looks like it's an equal trade. Like, that happens all the time, that kind of thing. And that is missed opportunity. Whereas if you have someone like a Menarde or some of these guys, a Fair Dragon, and they're just like, you know, okay, so it is 16 Marine, but, you know, what is he looking for to accomplish here? And then the nerds back at home can geek out because the outpouring of information and then more, I guess, right?
I totally agree with you on that, Jeff, but I'm almost trying to imagine like who that would be, because like the idea for all of this, I think, is that like they don't have to spend like almost any money on this.
Yeah.
I believe that the prize pool just came from Nerd Street, so like they need to find someone who would be that, and I don't know who that would be.
What did they get in donations?
He said that they got enough donations. He like decent headsets for sound and stuff, and then also they're gonna be able to do the next one.
I'll tell you what you do.
That's pretty good.
Take the Hollywood approach, okay? So a lot of movies are taking their stuff to China to try to kind of garner Chinese attention. Throw a couple of Chinese players in this tournament, get a couple of $1 million, and you can hire Tasteless. Problem solved. Okay, guys, that's it.
Damn.
Done. Thank you. No, you're right. It's a little bit tougher over there, and that's why, you know, I like that Tyler kind of had the gumption to get us into this real talk where it is No Regret that is he is the mother hen of that house. And when I tuned in, he was doing a pretty good job, especially for a guy that's only casted briefly at GSL and is just now kind of running that house. He would be the guy that hopefully would hear this kind of feedback and be like, all right, I got to figure it out and I'll do it. Because I think the product could get better, and it is a completely different angle. That's the other thing here too, right? Like, we don't get to see a lot of these guys interacting. It's really cool the Koreans came over and had a good time. Solar is lightning in a bottle. He's really interesting and funny and speaks really great English. So if they can do more, if they can get it better, if they can have more interesting pairings over there, that'd be really cool. All right?
Yeah. I think it'll get better over the next ones too. Like that was, you know, No Regret was basically like observing and casting and producing. And
that was really tough on him too. I noticed that, like, to observe and try to play host at the same time and commentate, like that's impossible. He even acknowledged it in one of the matches I was listening to.
He was like postponing eating because he was like, if I don't keep doing all this, the show stops.
Yeah.
And then he went and ate and the show stopped. I was like, oh shit.
Then he was correct.
There's a joke in there.
Well, check it out. And guys, if you're listening and watching this, they will be pursuing, of course, further support so they can pay out these players and step up production, stuff like that. So check out Project Unity, check out No Regret and what they're doing over there. And hopefully the next one will be even better. But a lot of people are really happy with this one, so kudos to them.
I just think they can keep it as casual feeling as they want, but they need and no regret will figure this out, and they'll all figure this out. But like, you want enough behind. You want it to seem effortless and casual, but to be as like smooth and professional as possible at the same time, which is something that I hope that they continue to work on, and they don't. I mean, obviously, he's already demonstrated that he wants to improve it. He's taking it back and stuff, but just like keep working on it, and like you could turn it into something really awesome. Because I do think the way that the show is pleasing to the hardcore fan, but it could be a turnoff for some people like tuning in for the first time.
Yeah,
so
could help with the
you want to please everybody, or as many people as possible.
Just please everyone, just get it out there and just.
That's what I do. Everyone's pleased with my comments tonight.
Yeah,
everybody.
Absolutely.
You got a lot of fans in the chat there.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm invited to the next Memes and Dreams.
You for sure are. So we're gonna move into our last subject, and then we're gonna close things out with the questions from Discord. I'll talk more about that process. We streamline that a little bit better, but this last one's a bit of a big one. We will try to keep it. We're keeping the show to 2 hours, so we got some time, but we can't go too long. The last subject is one that I've been thinking a lot about, and I want to have a discussion on, because I think it's kind of cool that with a show like this, we have a place where we can bring on really smart people like Tyler, and then also Ravi. And
I'll take it.
Have a discussion, kind of, this is a subject we'll revisit a few times. Dan, your laugh kills me, man. It's like I'm not supposed to laugh at my own jokes. When you laugh that hard, it feels pretty good. I want to talk about WCS kind of in a review kind of format, where we're coming into, I probably should have checked this number for myself, but it's like the 4th year of WCS, the 5th year maybe. It's been in many different iterations or something along the line. It wasn't even called WCS at the beginning, but let's just call it, the 4th or 5th year or whatever.
Well, 2012 was the year where it had all the national qualifiers. So I don't know if we're really counting that, but it was kind of WCS. And then like the next year is when we decided to butcher GSL and send Koreans to Europe and America to have 3 GSLs.
Okay, so there's a teaser of how Dan feels about it. So 5 or 6 years, something. Anyways, and typical Grandpa Dan actually just spent the last 5 minutes explaining exactly how long it's been. I love it. I'm not going to prompt it with my opinion. I was about to say, I feel bad because I think it's going to be Tyler again. If I throw, here's the thing. Here, you know what? Here's a little bit of the host's mind before you. If I throw it to Ravi, he's going to fillet it. If I throw it to Dan, Dan's going to mix a little bit of realness in there, but it's not quite hardcore enough for Tyler. If I talk about it, it could get closer there, but it's still not going to do it.
It is an interesting dynamic as well, because I normally don't feel like people are as opinionated as me, but with Tyler here, I'm like, I could say anything right now. I could like just make fun of and tell everyone they're stupid and everything's bad and wrong, and then Tyler's like, I don't know how many years ago it was that you guys turned into pansies, but here's what's really going on.
It's very real, very quick. But I'll just I'll lay down a little bit of the framework, and then I do get to throw it to somebody, because that's just the power I have. So WCS challenges happen. We had WCS Leipzig earlier. We're coming up on Austin. I'll tell you behind the scenes a little bit. They are aware that the format can sometimes feel, well, not even sometimes, it can just feel very similar. It can feel like each stop doesn't have a unique feel to it. You're not really getting a feel of something different. Some of that was because of the seeding. Like we had Tilo versus Neeb at every single tournament, which resulted in the same way. Neeb was so dominant last year that too kind of played out in a similar fashion. And then because of how individual but how important WCS stops are, it felt a little bit herky-jerky, because you'd kind of be like, there's Cyril, everyone's talking about him being the best. Oh, he came close, we'll see him again in 2 months. And there wasn't anything in between that except for online cups and ladder, and it just kind of felt a little bit disjointed. And then when we came back, it was the same guys in the same suits talking about the same players. So that is the criticism. That is what's kind of difficult about WCS. I'll rely on these other guys to talk about some of the positive stuff, but I want to hear a review of WCS. What do you guys think about it? And I am going to start with what I am at. Fear Dragon, what do you think? I'm not even gonna set you up. I'm just gonna see what you got. What do you got?
So okay, there are things that I like about like the current system as it's like come to now. Like there are like weird things that I like about having just 100K events, even though there are fewer of them from the past. Because like weirdly enough, when you used to have like 10 or whatever events per year, but then it only paid out like top 8 or top 16 or something, that kind of sucked for literally everybody that wasn't like a top 16 player. So that I like that it now pays out to group stage 3. So there's like some coolness with that. But the fact that we only have 4 WCS events now, and yeah, we have like an occasional like IEM Shanghai or Katowice or something in there. There's like, it's like what you said, there's so much dead space. And then there's Challenger. And Challenger's like the thing that I want to be so much more, especially like with the changes that they made this year, where it's like group stages and like a studio broadcast and it happens over a couple of weeks and stuff. But like, it's not, I feel like it's still not quite there. Like realistically, what I want is I want it to be the offline thing where players are coming in. And I understand that there's like a lot of complexities with that and players flying
expensive.
out. And yeah, it's super expensive. Like there's a ton of costs. There's a lot of reasons why they don't do this, but like, it just feels like there's nothing there between the events. And then there's like some filler things that exist. Like there's small LAN events in North America, like Cheesadelphia and stuff, but it's like, they're not really getting support from Blizzard either. So they just kind of like are existing on their own. And I don't know if they're like really making enough of a profit to like justify investing in like scaling up their stuff even more to become something way better. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's my biggest problem with the WCS system right now is there's so much space between each event, and Challenger's like trying to fill it, but it doesn't really fill it. So that's like my problem with WCS right now.
Dan?
Okay, so I totally get where you guys are coming from, but I do want to say I think that the WCS system is doing what it was intended to do. I think specifically you look at the level of non-Korean players right now, and that's like really exciting, right? Because we never had that before. And I think that that's like a huge part of what is, right? Like we have 4 tournaments. If you're actually one of the best non-Koreans, you're making really decent money at this point, I would say, right? Like they're raking in some prize money, the top guys, right? And we're getting these levels like Neeb and Cyril and all this that we've never had anything even close to that. So that's very exciting. The fact that we're getting multiple non-Koreans getting into GSL each season at this point as well, and Scarlet even going top 8, that type of thing. So I think WCS is basically doing the hardest thing well, which is to actually get the non-Korean scene up to speed so we can have kind of heroes from all over the world playing this game.
Well, let me ask you, Dan, is it good for the top non-Koreans, or is it good for the non-Korean scene on the pro gamer level?
I think it's good for both, right? Because you actually have something to strive for that's realistic, right? It's like, well, you can become as good as a guy that plays in WCS and is in the group stage. And then like once you're there, you can get to the next group stage. And once you're there, you can get into the bracket stage and things like that, right? Like these are reasonable steps that can happen. Maybe Cyril and Neeb are looked at as gods, but the guys in the round of 16, not necessarily. You're like, oh no, Probe, for instance, is better than me, but I can do it. I can get that level eventually. That feels much more doable, right? Whereas you look at, like, for instance, not to get into the StarCraft 1 scene, but you look at ASL and it's like, no non-Korean will ever even come close. Okay. Yeah. And, so there's like a huge difference. Scarlet break that and a bunch of people break that. But yeah, this is what I think was the hardest part. And the thing is, the first year that they kind of like really region locked out Korean players, there was so much complaining and stuff. Blizzard took a ton of flack. And by about the next year, the scene had risen exponentially in skill. So huge kudos on that. I think that's the hardest thing to get done. I definitely agree with Robbie, though, on I think Challenger isn't exciting enough, and it should be. It's really weird that it's not, because like, okay, it's kind of like a Code A, if you guys remember Code A in GSL. Code A was a sick tournament. Everyone watched that. It was super fun, and it wasn't as good as Code S, just like Challenger isn't as good as the WCS stops.
Yeah.
But there was a certain excitement about it, and I'm not sure how to get that exactly translated into Challenger.
I kind of, and this is just, I literally only am just now thinking about it, because I don't disagree with you. I think them returning to studio broadcast is the beginning of that. We've only had one of those so far, so I think it does take some time to develop. We have talked with Blizzard about like trying to advertise more and get it out there more, because even with this, they didn't announce the commentators or that it was a studio broadcast until like literally 2 days before, and even then it was kind of like a tweet. So that definitely needs some working on. But one of the things I kind of miss, and I don't know that this blows it up, but I definitely think it's an element that could be explored. I liked when there was Challenger and stuff like that, there was people there reporting. They were like interviewing the players. They were kind of like talking about who showed up, who's facing who. Oh, they made it this far, but then they hit this other top tier player. Obviously, replicating challenge or that atmosphere non-Korean online is impossible. But I do think roping in the players and interviewing them or making content of them somehow is maybe an element that could be used. I cringe, and it's a little bit difficult because that's so hit or miss. It takes a certain personality. And it's like a huge production risk, because sometimes you get these players that are in the room and it's like their dog's humping the bed behind them and they're like in their boxers and they're like, how do you feel about it? They're like, I don't. This match took place at 11 a.m. and I usually wake up at 3 p.m. and this sucks. And you're like, wow. I want to strangle you through the internet. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, then that's the interview. So that obviously sucks. But then you get these other guys who are like, I've been training for 6 weeks. This was my time. I want to thank such and such player who helped me get to the spot. I knew that if I could beat so and so, I had a shot. I did it. My parents now recognize that this is something I can actually do. And oh, by the way, I'm 16-year-old Clem, and this is amazing. And like, and then that story like actually has the potential to blow up and be amazing. Something like that. I don't know. Tyler, WCS.
So I mean, it definitely feels disjointed, and I think about professional sport, real sports, traditional sports, that they all have seasons. We don't expect them to be year-round things, and for some reason esports, everyone just thinks let's do it year-round, even though no sport does that. So it's kind of weird. Even when you look at things like golf and tennis, which are pretty spread out, they still have like well-defined off seasons, and esports somehow just hasn't really done that. It's kind of weird. So if I'm going to speak ideally, and I don't know if this is feasible, but in my dream world, utopia, Blizzard, which is like an esports company, it makes esports games now, they would have like a studio or an arena or whatever, which, okay, we know what Overwatch League is, but one that's shared by all the games, and like one night's Heroes of the Storm, one night's Overwatch, one night's StarCraft, one night's Hearthstone. It's just like constant. Let's throw the World of Warcraft arena tournament or whatever in there. Whatever, throw it all in, fine. And I think it would be cool if there was just like kind of it was all connected, more universal, and there were set schedules, and it just felt more concrete the way that traditional sports feels right now. I don't know if that's possible, if it's ever going to be a thing that comes to be, but the thing right now where they piggyback off DreamHack definitely has its advantages, but it makes it disjointed. It feels a little bit weird. It's not its own thing. I don't know. So Dream World, you kind of scrap the whole system and like make it a more structured thing. And I think there's some optimizations that could take place and maybe make it feasible, whatever. But
so what you're saying, I just want to make sure before you jump to the next thing. So like you would prefer, instead of for instance a DreamHack Austin or a DreamHack Valencia or whatever, you'd prefer to fly the players into a studio, let's say in LA area, something like that, like the Overwatch studio, have a little live audience there and kind of do the whole show right there, as opposed to fly them out to a DreamHack?
Yes.
Now,
yes. They're definitely,
because they used to do something like that, right, with WCSNA and WCSEU, and those didn't feel to me as epic as if it's at a DreamHack. So would you agree with that?
Definitely agree with that. I mean, I've been to MLGs and DreamHacks years ago, but so I remember the kind of crowds you can get there and stuff. But I would say that if they are, I guess the hope is that you're kind of piggybacking / synergizing with the other Blizzard esports to the point where hopefully it would be a bigger arena than just like a little studio thing. And you would hopefully, I mean, what sucks is that the local fans, like now we have Valencia, Austin, Montreal, and how do you say this?
Leipzig.
Leipzig. Okay. So obviously a lot of different fans get to show up and watch StarCraft, and that's really cool. And if you have like one single arena in Burbank, then that kind of sucks for global fans. But I feel like it would be better than, you know, what they had before with the little studio audience, with what they did with WCS before. But I don't know. I don't know. That's just my on the spot, just like brainstorming. Because the main advantages I see is just a little more structure and predictability, so that like right now, and what I'm going to say is the practical thing that they could do immediately is piggybacking off what Jeff said. More promotion, announce it more in advance, more branding. Mm-hmm. Like you need to feel like Austin is coming. Like NFL is NFL broadcasts are there's like a trope where like you watch a game of Seattle, which Jeff is a fan of, and you always see the guys throwing fish at the fucking fish market.
Yeah, Pike Place.
Every single time, and then they show the Space Mule. It's like the thing. It's like, start showing us Austin stuff already on the Challenger broadcasts. Like get us the brand, like have all your branding already ready, have it already hyped up, put it on the launcher, put it on when you open StarCraft, have it there. Like already throw the branding and the promotion and the dates and everything on there in advance, have it advertised, you know, advertise to people who watch your other games. I don't know if they're okay with that, if they're cool with that, whatever, but just get it out there. And like, you don't even need to change that much, but that changes the whole way that people conceive of the event, and so it changes the whole event.
Oh, I would reach out to StarCraft streamers and give them a graphic and be like, "Do you mind putting this in your overlay?" Or maybe you take it the next stage and say, "I'll pay you $50 or $100. Put this in your overlay for the 3 weeks leading up to it." It says the date, it says where it is, it's got the Austin skyline. I would reach out to Robbie, who's doing his thing. He's on podcasts. I'd reach out to Rifkin, some of these guys, and be like, hey, just start talking about it. If you don't mind, here's a blurb. Here's the guys that are going to tweet it. It's going to be mentioned on this. I'm going to advertise it on our Overwatch League show. And there's this weird thing, and I'm not going to go too far into this because we only have 20-ish or so more minutes. But there's actually, it's not just Blizzard, but there's a lot of companies that are really afraid of cross-promoting between even their own games, because they're really afraid of people being turned off to the notion. I know that on the StarCraft Twitter, they literally made an esports StarCraft Twitter because they were afraid of too many people that follow the StarCraft Twitter being washed over in esports tweets off the StarCraft Twitter.
Yeah, that's
as if
is that people, why they made that?
I actually, and I'll tell you what, there's a chance that Tim is literally shooting a missile at my house right now, but before it hits, I mean, by the way, everything I say is not like someone in a back alley told me this. I know for sure. I'm like 98% certain that's what happened. I'm going to get told that I'm wrong, but whatever. You can use your own imagination. The point that I'm trying to make is there's this weird kind of red tape and uncomfortable, like, yeah, but how do we talk about it? I don't want to put too much on people. If you give Nathanius 10 like keys to whatever you're doing lately and say, hey, Nate, do you mind talking about DreamHack Austin coming up and it's 3 weeks out or it's a month out? Nate's gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Some of these other guys are gonna do it. Just start to create the hype. And that's just the beginning. Like, that's just literally a spitballing. But I do want to wrap up this subject by saying they need to advertise more. They need to get the hype out a little bit more. I do agree that they need to create kind of a different feeling. They're aware of that. They're working on different ways to do that. And then I like what Robbie had to say too about the WCS Challenger system, where it just needs to feel a little bit more. It is a big deal for these guys, and we got to kind of communicate that and find ways to do that. So I will tell you, WCS, as Dan said, has been doing what it we see these up and coming players blowing up. We see guys getting paid and staying professional because the WCS system is so consistent and rewarding. We do see a level of foreigner play that we never saw before. It was a joke. It was a fucking joke in the past. And these guys are, some of these top tier non-Koreans are standing up to the absolute best Koreans and doing battle, and that's been pretty cool. GSL versus the world and stuff, I'd like to see them fighting more often too, though. Like that was what was kind of cool about Katowice as well. But
yeah,
So just putting out there, we're not hating on WCS. We're just saying that we want more, and here's the things that could have been different, and we're going to keep working on it, of course. So hopefully there'll be more to go. But that's it for our subjects. We're going to close on the Q&A section, which last week was an absolute disaster because I just didn't think that through. But now we have a system. So if Cobra or one of my lovely mods can put in the chat the Discord you can join as a viewer, and you can just kind of submit questions in there. That's going to be where we pull these questions from. I know that Cobra is a overachiever, so we grabbed a couple off of Twitter that we'll go to here in a second. But basically what I would tell you is that if you're interested in plugging into the show and asking questions and interacting with us, that's going to be the way to do it. If you're like, I don't do Discord because I'm scared of technology, it's time to check it out. It's a great program.
Even I use Discord, even though I call it Skype sometimes. Okay, so like you can use Discord. This channel will be important for the Pylon going forward. Basically, this is going to be our best way to communicate and get questions and have events submitted and stuff like that. So join it, and we'll get it partnered pretty soon, I think, without too much trouble.
Yeah.
Make sure you join it. We need to get a bunch of people in there so we can actually talk to Discord and have it like / the Pylon Show.
The social stress. I believe in you, Soul for Shots. Okay, so there it is. So we're going to do 10 questions, guys. So that's where it's pulled from. So check it out for future episodes. So first one. What are you, and I'm just going to read it, by the way, so if some of these are a little bit poorly worded, it is what it is. What are you opinions on either getting rid of or softening the region lock for future years of WCS? I still feel like that there's not enough focus on global competition as a lead-up storyline to BlizzCon at the end of the year. What do you guys think?
It's I think just leave it as it is for now. It's doing its job like we talked about, and we already saw what happens if you kind of unregion lock things and let everything go wild. What if we just had stats fly around the world and win a bunch of tournaments? But then here's the thing. He's traveling all the time. He's not practicing Korea all the time. So suddenly his skill fucking drops off. We lost a lot of good pros when the travel started because it's like, well, MC now lives on an airplane. He barely practices because he's flying every weekend. And it's, you know, yeah, I think that that was an exciting time for a bit, but it also, I don't think it was as good as it could be. I like it better how it is now.
I'm with Dan, and also like it weirds me out that people are saying that there wasn't like much of a foreigner versus Korean storyline, because I felt like it was more of a foreigner versus Korean storyline than it was in the past, because before it was like, all right, we've seen like this happen basically every 3 weeks where the foreigners get shit on by the Koreans. We know what's gonna happen, so like, all right, get fuck Korean or get fuck foreigners. But like then last year, I remember there was like, oh, well, like Neeb's doing really well. We haven't seen him play versus a lot of Koreans. So like, can he do it? And then he kind of gets shit faced. But or like
it creates a lot of hype for BlizzCon, I think. I mean, I do agree. I'd like to see more of it because I think that is where the ultimate hype is. But for IEM Katowice, for the few times we do get to see it because of the raised level of skill from non-Koreans, it's more interesting. I hope I don't need to remind you of some of the BlizzCons we've had where a certain player just thought they had so little of a chance they literally just didn't practice.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
So my comment is just that I already think that BlizzCon's going to be better with respect to this year. So I don't think we need to overreact and change anything. I already think this year's BlizzCon's going to be pretty hype when it comes to foreigner hopes.
Agreed. Second question from Kevin Flo. How do you think the No Regret Foreigner House has impacted the scene for foreigners in Korea? And how does it compare to other foreigner in Korea initiatives you've seen throughout the history of StarCraft 1 and 2. Tyler, I'm going to go with you, obviously.
Well, I don't know a lot about their house, so I don't know if I'm the best person to comment on it. And also, I didn't live in a foreigner house myself, technically. I mean, I joined a Korean team house, so it's a little bit different. I really I don't want to speculate. I don't know if Dan is closer to their house.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good. Obviously, we have a lot trying to qualify for GSL events and a lot more qualifying for GSL events because there is a home base. Before it was incredibly hard. Like how with it, you have to be so with it to come out here, get your own apartment, practice, and show up at GSL qualifiers. That people that are that with it aren't good enough to get into GSL. All right, we need. Let
me ask this. Does Scarlett make her deep GSL run without that house?
I think the house definitely. Scarlett, I mean, we can probably ask her ourselves at some point, but like she had been out here for years already, and so I'm with her. It's a little bit different because she kind of is
the
with
house.
That's the house what?
It's been there for years too.
Yeah, no, it's been here for like kind of a couple of years. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good thing. And we haven't had anything good like that before. Before it was like occasionally a foreigner would get on a Korean team and that wouldn't always work out perfectly. And obviously the GOM TV house that we had back in the beginning was the biggest clusterfuck that's ever been. So, yeah, that's...
Oh my God, the stories from there. You know what? Someone remind us to come back to that. And we should get somebody that was there. I'll try to think of somebody, but that had some funny stories.
Yeah, most of them, of course, involve special as well.
And Destro and Caldor. It has some amazing moments. We got 15 more minutes, so we'll try to get it pretty quick here. Third question from Rapid. What were some of the biggest life lessons that you each learned from StarCraft? Robbie?
Just go fucking do it. If you want to get better at something, literally anything, just go fucking do it. That includes, like, if you want to get better at StarCraft, go fucking ladder. Just like stop practicing versus an AI and just go start playing. You don't need to like sit around and just speculate how you can get how you can get good at it. Just go do it.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I mean, StarCraft, it taught me hard work. That's like the main thing. I kind of skated through life and still StarCraft, and a bunch of good players are like, you ain't skating through life against me. You know, and so it's obviously changed my life in every way. And we talked a bunch at the 20-year anniversary thing, but if it weren't for StarCraft, I probably never would have worked really hard on anything in my life. And now instead I work hard on everything, generally. Except things I'm lazy at.
Tyler?
Ascension. Did you work hard on Ascension?
I like Dan's dead smile is my favorite, where he's smiling but he's dead inside. He's like,
yeah. I shouldn't have said that. I don't work hard on everything, but I work hard on things. That's what I should have said.
Okay, your mic should work a little bit harder.
Yeah, I guess so.
Teach your mic to play StarCraft. Well, the thing I think I really opened my mind to is that you can just get better at anything. Like, and you know, I learned this in StarCraft. Like, basically anything that you're doing in StarCraft, there's probably a better way to do it, and you won't know it until somebody else does it, and you're like, oh my God. Or you can just go to work yourself and try to figure out some things yourself. But you can kind of apply that to life. Like, literally any everyday skill or task that you're doing, there's probably a way to do it better. There's probably a mindset where you can enjoy it more and get more out of it. So it's just kind of reminded me that everything is open to constant improvement, as you know, as long as you open yourself to constant.
I like it. For me, it's just echoing a lot of those sentiments, but I was just talking about this, I think, on the panel at PAX East, but StarCraft taught me work ethic, just like, and actually I think the more interesting angle for me to take on this is to be self-reflective. StarCraft really hones that you're like, you'll do things wrong, you'll make mistakes, but it kind of creates the ability, or it instills, I believe, the belief that if you work hard enough and you focus on those things, you can improve on them or even rid them from your repertoire. Like, if you're making mistakes, or if you believe something to be good but it turns out it's not, instead of just being like, well, I can't do it, I don't have the ability to do that, it instead encourages you to believe, no, if you work hard enough, you can actually get there, even if it seems insurmountable and impossible. So it's kind of cool that way. Fourth question from 7-8. It's crazy to think we've seen some of StarCraft 2's best games this year, with Legacy of the Void being out for a couple of years already, and things starting to settle a bit. I think he meant things. No more experience packs coming out, etc. Do you think StarCraft 2 now has a chance to establish a similarly long-lasting legacy as Brood War?
Yeah, I mean, we have a consistent, steady pro scene, so obviously the legacy of StarCraft 2 will continue. It's going to be a little bit different than StarCraft 1 because it kind of is. It's been a little bit more all over the place, whereas StarCraft 1 was very steady with like the same leagues for many years. But we've got some stable leagues now, so we're definitely building on that. And I think the games will, in general, just keep getting better because it is such a high quality game. And as people get better and smarter, there's more interesting things to be had in each game.
I would say yes, with the caveat of, unlike Brood War, well, kind of like Brood War, but I think if and when Warcraft 4 comes out, StarCraft 2 will cease to exist as we know it for the most part. I think it'll become kind of like Wings of Liberty right now, where can you go find someone to play Wings of Liberty on a ladder? Probably. Is it the same guy and it's just the two of you? Yes. Warcraft 4, which I don't know, but when it does come out, that will be the RTS.
I agree with you 100% on that. We're going to make Warcraft 4 the RTS. Because you're destroying one of your IPs. That doesn't make sense from a business standpoint, right? They've got plenty of Warcraft IPs, and StarCraft has kind of its own thing. Yeah. And Warcraft 4 comes out and kills StarCraft 2, then you got StarCraft 1 in Korea, and you got Warcraft 4 everywhere else. And what has this done for us? How many Warcraft games do we need? So I don't think we're going to ever see Warcraft 4. Even though I think it would be super successful.
I think we will. I agree with everything you said. I think it does kill StarCraft 2. They're not working on it right now, it would be my opinion, and I think it's not coming out for a couple of years, but it's not like they're going to be making money off of StarCraft 2 in a couple of years. And then when you sell Warcraft 4, literally they'll make $1 billion. They'll make $100 billion fucking dollars or whatever, and it'll be the RTS that then does bring everybody in. So no, I don't think they do it now. And I do agree with you that it kills. They've said as much too, by the way. They've said they're not making Warcraft 4 until they like wrap up the lore of World of Warcraft or something weird like that. Anyways, we're taking too much time on this. We're gonna just do a couple more and then we're gonna wrap up the show. Rolf says, if Blizzard were to try to make an Jesus, I should have read that ahead. If Blizzard were to try to make an RTS in today's game market, what would it look like? How would they innovate, change the genre? I would say I'll take this. They'd make Warcraft 4.
Okay.
They'd make Warcraft 4.
No. Well, I have a slightly different take. I'm not sure what to do with the actual game. Like, I guess some of the simplifications in StarCraft 2 would certainly stay. Maybe they'd simplify more. I'm not exactly sure. But we would have to have more microtransactions involved, I would say. Like, all this stuff that came into StarCraft 2, if we all had this at the beginning, maybe StarCraft 2 would have made a ton more money and had more stuff going on. I'm not exactly sure how that would work out financially, but I think that's like a big part of it. It seems like just about every game that comes out now. So I think we'd start with skins and stuff like that.
Warcraft 4 with skins. We all agree?
Yeah. Free to play. Sure. Microtransactions.
Free to play, sure. I want to add, I think the funniest thing ever, and this is not funny at all, but it would be funny kind of in a dark way, is if they did make like a StarCraft 3, like in a couple of years they announced StarCraft 3, but it's a mobile game. And it's like the first mobile RTS. Can you imagine?
Oh my god.
Dan, what would you do? Dan,
yeah. How
angry can you get? Like, what would Dan do?
Just keep playing StarCraft 1, I guess.
I think that'd be amazing. All right, let's do one more question. We're going to wrap up the show. Halcyon, I can't say that word. Halcyon? Halcyon. There we go. Why is MMA never in discussion for one of the greatest StarCraft 2 players of all time? Multiple GSL wins, WCS wins, MLG wins, several GSTL championship wins, and one of the few able to beat MVP. Revolutionized TVZ with drop play. Thoughts? Thanks for the awesome show. In Control. He also says Artosis, but I think he just meant In Control.
Yeah, that was misspelling at the end where he put plus Artosis exclamation point. He slipped on his keyboard when he was trying to hit enter.
Ravi?
Yeah, can I take this one?
Ravi first.
Please.
Okay, my answer is he is. End of story. Like, is
nice.
there
Tyler,
other
what are
people
your thoughts? No.
Are there people that say MMA wasn't like one of the greatest players?
I think what they're getting at is when you talk about the best ever, he's not mentioned. I think if you like thought about it, he's on the list. I don't think anyone's like, no, he's absolutely not on the list. But I think people, they name innovation and some of these players before they name him ever. So I think what the person's saying is, why isn't he in the top 3 or something? I
have a different list then, because like my list straight up always goes MVP, MMA, and then I list off some other players that I think about.
Yeah, all Terrans.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, I gotta step in here for a moment.
Please do.
MMA is a great player, and it's because of great players that you can have the greatest of all time players, right? This is like an important thing to look at, but like his era overlaps not 100%, but very closely with MVP. And MVP was better, and he won more and was more impressive. And so therefore, that would be like saying, let's see, like Innovation right now is one of the guys that greatest ever, right? We don't really talk about TY or Maru as that at this, because their times are overlapping with Innovations, and Innovation has done better. So like, you know, you can grab players from different eras and try to talk about who's the GOAT there, but you can't take the second places from eras, right? Like that for me, that doesn't work. And it's like, yeah, MMA amazing. Thing is, he's playing again. Maybe he has some sick runs and wins some big tournaments, and then we can talk about it, because now he's stretching across multiple eras, and that brings him back into the conversation. But when he was straight up not as good as MVP, and most of their accomplishments overlap, I can't bring him up as one of the greatest of all time. Can't do it.
That's
just can't. Thank you, Tyler. All right, hang up on Robbie. Hang up on Robbie, quick. Don't let him respond.
No, that's good. Guys, that's going to do it. So we're going to conclude the show there. I'm going to give these guys a chance to talk about what they do and where you can find these fantastic personalities. But it's at this moment that we come together, we join hands, and Jeff does his sellout speech. So if you guys are enjoying this content and you're having a good time, please do consider subscribing. You can use a Twitch Prime sub, a Tier 1, Tier 2, or even Tier 3. If you have copious amounts of money and you hate it, we'll take it from you. We're also going to be opening up a Patreon fairly soon, and literally one of the tiers is to get Dan a better mic, which is pretty funny that we live in this day and age, but it is there. Also, we want to get to a place where we can pay Cobra, who's doing all the production, did an amazing job, and then make this something that, if it's earning money and is churning out good production, that we can rely on doing this all the time, step up our game, get more resources, and maybe pay our guests at some point as well. If Robbie and Tyler are just now here and they're not getting paid. But we do want to get to a place where this is the kind of thing where we share this stuff, host show matches, do all kinds of cool stuff. But in order to do that, we need your subs, we need your donations, we need your cheers, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I have a Twitch channel too. This is On In Control's Twitch channel, so.
Yep. And we'll be hosting Dan almost immediately after, I think, every time. And
actually, I'm
definitely
not going to stream today. I got shit to do. So
he's got shit to do. Check him out. But that's going to do it for that. Please do support us. And before we go, let's say goodbye to our guests, Robbie, Tyler. Thank you guys. Robbie, what are you up to? What do you got going on? Plug it.
Yeah, I'm Fear Dragon 64 on basically everything. If you want to check me out on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, etc. I have two things worth mentioning. I guess I'm doing Challenger right now, which is pretty cool. So yay. And then the second thing that I'm working on is I'm making a documentary on North American StarCraft players. Ooh. Because otherwise I feel like people won't give a shit. So look forward to that in like 5 years. So
and then never release it, I think, is the strategy. Like, make sure and get
here's
money
actually
for
my
it.
strategy. Well, yeah, this is my strategy. I'm going to finish it, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to run a Kickstarter and be like, if you want me to release this thing, you should pay me $10,000.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, everyone got it wrong. They raised money to make it, then they released it. You need to make it and then hold it hostage. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Because everyone is demanding right now a documentary on North American StarCraft players. So surely they'll pay me for this.
Yeah. Very cool. Tyler, recently coming back and competing. What are you doing? What can people find you and your amazingly edgy opinions that these softcore people can't do?
God. I can't believe I had to play that role on this show. I really hope when you bring some softball guests on in future weeks, I hope you guys step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And bring down the thunder yourselves, because I will be listening. But so I don't have a lot going on. I hopefully will be able to go to DreamHack Austin and have some fun there and give it my best shot. But my wife's due date for our first child is May 20th. And so
congrats.
Who knows when the baby will come out? Thanks. And, who knows if I will be able to travel away from the home once the baby does come out. So we'll see. Maybe I'll show up. Maybe I won't. Other than that, I stream occasionally, and my stream is like the meme and dream style stream, in the sense like you can tell I don't have any passion for it. Like I just hit start streaming and then I just don't care. So tune in if you want to risk wasting your time. But no, for real, it's a very casual stream, and there are probably better streamers to watch, and probably don't tune into my stream. But
he's even
if you really want to, you can.
I love it. I love how real he is.
He's selling himself pretty short.
It's like, life is sadness. Don't watch my stream. Bye.
But yeah, if all goes according to plan, I'll actually be in pretty good shape for Austin and have a good showing. That's what I'm working on. But I might not even be able to go.
Pretty good excuse, I would say.
Yeah.
Dan, what about you, buddy? What are you up to?
You know, just doing my thing. A lot of GSL, a lot of ASL. GSL just started last night, so tune into that. ASL, Sundays and Tuesdays, 7 p.m. KST. And other than that, I've been streaming. I'm not going to stream after this, but generally I do it like 5 days a week. So check that out on our Artosis. And oh yeah, the VOD goes on Artosis TV on YouTube. So check that out too.
Oh, don't worry. I handle the outro. I got you.
Yeah. Well, I got to handle it again. There you go. You asked me. I don't know. I don't have anything.
I know. We'll get way better at this, guys.
I want to feel important. I'm like, my stream's pretty bad too. In fact, it's worse than Noni's because I care just a little bit, and I'm worse than him. So it's like just.
Oh my
I'd
God.
rather just not give a shit at all and be better. But like, here I am.
Absolutely not the Artosis stream experience, but he cares so much that that's why you tune in to watch that care get thrashed. Yeah. Guys, it's been a great episode. Thank you again to Tyler and Ravi. We will be back next week at the exact same time as Dan got there saying, but I'll just say it way more charismatically. This is going to be up on Artosis TV on YouTube almost immediately after. It also has an RSS feed on iTunes that Cobra handles. It goes out from the Pylon Show Twitter. You can follow all that stuff there. And if you're enjoying yourself, like I said, make sure and do what you can to support. Even just watching is a way of supporting. So if you don't have the money, don't have the means, don't worry about it. You being here is enough. We appreciate that. These were great guests. Check them out, follow them, and we will see you guys soon. But that's going to do it for us, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.